All right, guys, I am joined by my good friend Luke Thomas. After another interesting week in Paris, we are in an interesting point in the combat world with a big boxing match around the corner, another pivotal fight in the UFC around the corner. Luke Thomas, thanks for joining me here on Submission Radio, man. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Now that I'm ready, I have to tell the audience that I am, well, I mean, this will come as no surprise to some of them that I am a brain-damaged idiot and was not able to manage my schedule very effectively yesterday. So we were supposed to do this yesterday, and now we're doing it today by the good graces of Dennis. So I am sorry, brother. I apologize.
No. For everybody out there, I'm so privileged and lucky to get a chance to speak to you so regularly. I appreciate you, man. You wake up at like 3 a.m. You still join me. You are basically the Brian Ortega of the MMA because did you see this crazy quote, man? This is from MMA Fighting where he spoke about the wake up for Shanghai. I woke up unconscious for about 30 minutes. During that time, they were putting ice on me. They took all my clothes off, left me in the boxes, woke up in the ER. This is, of course, UFC's Shanghai. Brutal stuff, right? Like Brian Ortega, once one of the most elite guys in the division, one of the most dangerous dudes, and now has been on this difficult journey. And of course, he didn't look himself in that fight. But when you read that, like, of course, how did he even fight to begin with?
He shouldn't have. I mean, I come out of this with basically 1 point and then one set of questions. First point would be, in my opinion, it's not a medical one, your mileage may vary, if you go unconscious at any point during fight week, particularly the day before during the weight cutting event, in the process of weight cutting, fights off. And I've seen people respond to that saying, well, you know, the going unconscious by itself is not necessarily, like, the act of going unconscious isn't necessarily all that detrimental to the health, to which I would respond, yes, but the reasons underlying why someone might go unconscious, it's not the act of going unconscious, it's what factors have to be in place for that to happen, is automatically disqualifying in my view. So I don't know why he thought it was a good idea to compete. Maybe he felt he pressured. Maybe he needed the money. I truly do not know. This is, to me, one of the problems with how we pay for weight cutting through contracts. And what I mean by that is people think that it's called show and win money. As we all say it. I say it. You say it. We've all said it a million times.
Yeah.
If you actually look at the language of UFC contracts, that appears nowhere. That's actually literally not in the contracts even once. It is, you get half your purse for the participation in the bout, and then you get it doubled for winning. But obviously, you know, if your opponent doesn't make weight, someone who makes weight should still be compensated. And I, you know, personally speaking, it's, you know, easy for me to say this, but I don't want my fighters competing because they need money through really bad weight cuts. You know, I don't know what the resolution to that is, but I don't want that. But I have to say, I don't know what the answer is. So, like, pay close attention to what I'm saying. I am asking. I do not know. If you're the UFC, how did you not know about this? And if you did know about this, why was he allowed to participate? I mean, so either way, I don't think there's a great answer for them. I don't know which one it is. I want to be clear about that. I don't know if one may be slightly more exonerating than the other, but this is a thing that should have never happened. I suppose it could have been worse in terms of what the fight result itself was, and it wasn't too bad, but not a great scenario for really any of the parties involved.
Yeah, brutal. Also, Brian Ortega's team and whoever's advising him, they got to figure something out because whatever's been happening in his career, it ain't working for Brian Ortega.
Right. I mean, didn't he? I mean, that's the reason why Dan Ige had to fight on like 5-second notice, right? Is because right at the finish line of the weight cut, or maybe it was afterwards, right? He got the weight cut and then fell ill the next day. It's like, my man, you know, I don't wish ill health on anyone, but if it's this routine, it's worth interrogating.
Yeah, just get that move happening. Hey, by the way, speaking of weight cuts, I didn't ever get a chance to speak to you about this. Kai Bahai obviously had that extra weight cut, UFC 319. We saw him fighting Imavov, where Imavov was able to basically, you know, systematically beat him in a lot of these rounds and win a pretty one-sided decision. There were some eye pokes there from Imavov. Obviously, he has his hand open when people move in on him. That's going to be something that might be an issue for his opponents in the future. But overall, a really impressive performance from Imavov. Kai Bahayu admitted that he kind of wasn't feeling the adrenaline, wasn't really feeling it in this fight. He was out for a year trying to get a fight, but of course, the added weight cut, the fact that he was almost at every event, right? Like he's always in almost every corner. It seemed like Imavov just focused in on this fight, laser focused, and was the better man that night for sure. What did you make of his performance? Do you feel like he did enough here to secure this title shot against Khamzat Chimaev?
You mean Imavov, not
Imavov? Yeah.
Yeah, Bahayu. Bahalio's performance to me was not. I mean, we had a debate about this on our podcast. Could you call it terrible or not? I felt terrible was a little strong, but ultimately kind of lifeless, I do think is fair. To what extent the weight cut was a contributor, again, this is a little bit hard to know, but having spoken to managers who measure their fighters' vitals before, during, and after weight cuts, including with some blood work and some of those intervals, they have all told me the exact same thing, that your testosterone, perhaps more than almost anything, falls off a cliff, like during the course of this weight cut. Like it is dramatically terrible for you. Doing 2 of those in 3 weeks seems deeply inadvisable for trying to secure a title shot in the toughest organization in this sport. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's not very good, risk management in my view. Again, can't say exactly what role it played, but not wise. Now, you asked about Imavov. I'll just ask you, when that fight was over, did any part of you not say, hey, where you weren't thinking, is he a good fighter or not? Or, the fight wasn't too terrible or not. But was there any part of you when that fight was over that said to you, that you said internally, man, I got to see him versus Khamzat? I didn't get that feeling. Did you?
Nah, it was like a somewhat decent meal at a restaurant where you're not quite satisfied,
That's right. I mean, again, and he may have had that injury, right, to the leg, and to what extent that limited his movement and therefore limited his offense, and to an extent defense, and really the whole thing, right? These are important contributors. But the problem for me in that fight was not that he didn't fight ably. It's that, and remember, he stuffed all 5 takedowns. There were 2 in the first and then 1 subsequent in every one. So not in the 5th round, but in the first 4, he stuffed them all. I thought that was great. But I thought Kaio's shots were, for this level, kind of easy to stuff. When I say easy, I could do better. It's not, I'm saying for this level, not for some kind of general level. And then the way in which Imavov competes is that, again, to what extent did the injury affect this? But it's not something that we haven't seen before, which is that he kind of sometimes will wait around for his opponent and then he'll react. Sometimes he'll counterfight. Sometimes he'll just kind of wait a fight out a little bit. He'll slow bleed it. And against a guy like Khamzat, I just don't know why that's supposed to be advantageous. So, if the argument is, has he earned it? Well, that's a very different argument, right? If the question is, has he earned it? I don't know how you could argue against it. You can make the case also for other ones, but you can't say his is not a title shot worthy resume. Yes, it is. Absolutely it is. It's just, did it wow you in a way that made you want to see a showdown with a champion who has unusual level of grappling? No, it did not.
I was also surprised with Kaya. He bit on a lot of Imavov's attacks in the stand-up, like his reactions to the shots. He was overreacting every time Imavov was throwing. He was giving reads away, and it just wasn't the Kai Bahaya that I think that I've spoken to leading into this fight that broke this down so systematically. He just, I don't know, just looked lost.
My understanding is he was traveling between Europe, North America, and South America during the course of this, cutting weight 2 times, doing lots of media. It's like, I don't like you. I appreciate that he wanted to be good to the media, and I appreciate that he wanted to be good to the promotion. But at some point, you got to be good to yourself first, and I'm not sure that happened here.
Yeah, and at every single event, basically all over the world, like it's hard to train. It's hard to train like that. Yeah, and Imavov's just in the gym, focused. Hey, just speaking of guys and title shots, what is your theory on VMAs again? Jon Jones, I'm not retired. I'm actively training 5 days a week. I'm in the UFC's drug testing pool. UFC's White House. That's my goal. That's my intention. And ultimately, it's up to the boss. Like, obviously, you and me would love to see Jon Jones come back to actually, if this was real and he was actually going to fight
We would.
Because people in the comments are like, why do you guys hate Jon Jones? We don't hate Jon Jones. What we hate is the fact that he's playing these games with fans and people's hopes and the media, and he's at the MTV VMAs again doing this. Like, what is Jon Jones's end game here, do you think, Luke, realistically?
I don't know. He says things. I don't even know how to answer this question anymore. I will tell you that after he retired, because folks kind of forget that he did retire, and then came back immediately after he was stripped. I mean, I'm really, 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 really not trying to relitigate this whole thing, but just very quickly, just understand what you just witnessed with that. That's the worst ducking in the sport of MMA ever, ever, ever. There's never been anything that bad, not even close. To say nothing of the fact that, yes, I know he was recently cleared around allegations around a relatively recent arrest, but even if that never happened, look at his record. Look at his record with, as somebody who is relatively lenient when it comes to anti-doping. At a bare minimum, look at how many times he had to interface with him. What on earth would make anyone ever be in a position where they're like, hey, what did Jon Jones say recently? Like, he says things he says lots of things. And to what extent or any relationship to the truth is often minimal to non-existent, and this happens frequently. He is like, I'm surprised you're even, I'm being dead serious. I'm surprised you're even asking me about him. He doesn't cross my mind ever, and I realize that there is a possibility in the course of 2026 he might come back again. Fine, he might come back again. He might have a fight. He might win. He might lose. He's already gone to me. He's already gone. This is not a person who's invested for any kind of long haul. They're not invested in a way that is, I think, in concert with the fans' interests. It's like I can't think of a more unreliable, or, we're sitting here talking about it. The whole thing might be vaporware again. He might get in trouble real badly between now and then. I just can't talk about him as anything other than real until he's actually in the octagon, because nothing else is real about anything he says.
Guys, if you're looking for the best VPN in the game, hit the link in the description below and try out IPVanish VPN. They are giving you guys a crazy 83% off. That's right, 83% off. Have a look over here. That's only $2.19 a month that starts at. Check that out. These are the options that you have, and you guys get that 3 gigabyte eSIM data gift and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you try it today. It is, of course, blazing fast. There is no logs, advanced encryption. It's truly unlimited. There are so many benefits to having a VPN. If you guys want to watch all of your favorite shows, if you guys want to check out all of the different events from around the world that might not be featured in your country, if you guys want deals on flights and products and all sorts of other things, IPVanish VPN really has you sorted. So do me a favor, click below right now. You support the program when you do. Give this thing a try. 83% off, one of the best VPNs in the game right now. So affordable. Don't worry about having to pay $30, $40 for a VPN. Have one today for as cheap as that. 83% off. My gosh, IPVanish has you sorted. If you're a submission radio watcher, fan, listener, click on the description below and get started on IPVanish today. But what did you make of your man Ilia Topuria throwing his hat in the ring, talking about Terence Crawford, huh? Check this out.
I didn't make much of it. Yeah.
Little niggle here from Ilia Topuria. Of course, boxers make so much more money than elite MMA fighters, but saying that he would knock out Terence Crawford with the first punch he lands if they ever meet inside the squared circle. So this isn't an MMA call out. This is a boxing call out against Terence Crawford.
Yeah. Once again, Ilia, it's like Ilia says lots of things, he says lots of things. And that's in the MMA sense, he says lots of things and then he actually does some of the more impressive versions of them. So, all right, fair play. But, brother, you've been here long enough, and I've been here long enough to see how many MMA champions have told us about the grandest things that they could pull off in the height of their excellence. And, I already had to live through. I mean, I had to live through the media cycle of Kamaru Usman calling out Canelo only for Canelo to eventually be a guest on his podcast. You know what I mean? Like they just say things. And dude, it's just a silly fucking thing at this point. I mean, yeah, I don't make much of it.
The funniest was when Kamaru Usman was on Terence Crawford's podcast or something. They were interviewing each other and he told him how MMA fighters make way more money than boxers.
And they were trying to sit there and deny it. And I'm like,
did you see Crawford's face? He was like,
yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, what? Yeah,
it was so good. But no, in all seriousness, there's going to be fans out there. Obviously, Topuria, one of the best strikers in the game. He touches you, you go out. They don't really understand Terence Crawford as much as maybe the more hardcore boxers out there. Crawford, switch hitter, one of the best to do it. Realistically, though, in a boxing match, if Topuria was in there with him, like, does he have much of a chance?
I cannot imagine he would last any longer than Terence wanted him to. Dude, I was there in attendance. So everybody always knew not always, but I mean for the last, I don't know how many years, Terence has been really, really good. You know, he's had really good wins. He was a unified champion many years ago. Moved up, and obviously he unified up at 47, and he's trying to do it here at 68. You know, I don't know if he will, but I guess we'll see. But my story and understanding how good he was is a little bit different. So let me help you understand what I saw. In the lead up to Bud Crawford and Errol Spence, Showtime came to me and they said, hey, we want you to do a breakdown of this fight. And I was like, okay, well, we already had all this Errol Spence footage because he was a PBC fighter and they obviously had a deal. So I got access to all this footage, right? So I had anything I want, the Kell Brook fight or and I attended some of Spence's fights, not Gamboa. Gamboa was the tank fight, but there was the one he had at Jerry's World with the bald guy from Cuba. What's his name? It escapes me. Anyway, but we had access to all this footage, but we couldn't get hardly anything from Top Rank. They only gave us like highlights, and it wasn't enough to do a breakdown. So I went back to Showtime and I was like, I don't have enough. And they're like, all right, well, just do one on Spence because that's all we really have. And I said, okay, cool. So I did. So I went through like so many of Spence's fights, man. The Chris Algieri fight, as I mentioned, the Kell Brook fight. It just goes on. I mean, the Sean Porter fight, because they had a common opponent. Both of them fought Sean Porter. And before Errol Spence fought Bud Crawford, he was on the pound for pound list. He, like Canelo, had never been knocked down. He was a southpaw with a hammer jab. He was physically fucking huge, and he would get in everyone's face and he would demolish them. He would simply break through their defenses and he would punish them. It was almost like, it's hard to explain his style, but it's like he wasn't a one-hitter quitter, but what he would do was just have this relentless ability to break down defenses and then torture them en route to a stoppage. It's insane how many faces he broke along the way. Chris Algieri told me that when he punched him, it felt like he was hitting steel, right? Okay, so I went into this fight being like, I know Bud is good, but man, the tape on Errol is like so convincing. And then Bud went in there and turned in terms of something I've seen with my own eyes, the best combat sports performance of my life. But I mean, abused him, knocked him down multiple times, took no punishment, fought out of southpaw to trick him, but would switch to a degree. I mean, obliterated this guy to it's just unfathomable. Like, he hasn't fought since, and he was undefeated and had never been knocked down and was a marauder. Okay. The concept that an MMA fighter, even a good one like Ilia Topuria, could even hang on the level of Spence is comical. But even if you could, look what Bud did to him. He changed his life. He effectively retired him. And he was a pound for pound guy. But Crawford would abuse Topuria.
Hey, just quickly as well, this weekend we got Lopes versus Jon Silva. I know a lot of people are going to be focused on Canelo and Crawford, but this is a pretty pivotal fight for the division as well here, man. Jon Silva, do you believe that if he goes out here and he's able to put on a performance against Lopes, an impressive performance, Do you think he can leapfrog Murphy and potentially secure this title shot? Or do you think that it's Murphy regardless of what happens this weekend?
I would say it's almost certain Murphy, but I would not say that it's out of the realm of possibility for someone like Silva. Big stakes fight. You know, obviously it's trying to compete with Canelo Crawford is going to make that difficult, but for MMA fans, huge stakes fight. Jon Silva, much more tested than a guy like Hoofy was heading into the BSD fight, right?
Mm.
If there's any kind of equivalence, and these are rough equivalents, but, you know, Jon Silva beating Bryce Mitchell, that would have, you know, something approximating that would have been, you know, Hoofy beating BSD. I mean, those are not exactly analogous, but something like that would have been in order. And he did it with flying colors. Like, to me, he's a little bit more, you know, Praches is the most battle tested of the, well, I guess Caio is too. Caio and Praches, well, I mean, maybe even Praches more in a certain way. Like, well, how much do you actually know about them is kind of what I mean. Not who have they fought, but like, how much has that been revealed to you? And there's been a lot that's been revealed about Silva, but not quite enough. And also Diego Lopes is on the other side of a problem, which was that there was so much revealed by Volk that he's got, some big ass issues. You know, to what extent can Silva pick up on them? He should be able to. To me, Silva has a small window, but a window to do something big and change the whole setup for who gets a shot at Volk next.
It's interesting because people are saying if Silva goes out there and, you know, clowns and Lopez, they're actually going to pick him to beat Volkanovski. Like, I feel like Volkanovski is up against it, like young contenders in the division. You got difficult contenders as well. Murphy, Silva, Mosar still in the division. Like, for Volk,
yeah.
And people basically in their prime, like Murphy towards the end of it, but like hungry, young, you know, not through the battles yet. Like, just
it's like
ready to fight.
It's like Volk beats Lopez. It's like, congratulations, you got your title back. That's awesome. Terrible news. There is a new army of orcs heading over the hill, and you got to fight them one by one, and they're all brand new. You know, like, you know, this is what GSP and all those other guys mean when it's like, you can't beat the game. Like, eventually there's just too much. So the good news for Volk is, for however much longer he wants to compete, there are some pretty interesting matchups for him, particularly if he remains as champion and you're still beating this new up and coming crop of contenders that could only add to his legacy. So that's great. But of course the problem is, holy shit, dude, like, they're getting tougher and tougher and you're getting older and older. You know, it's just, this is the game. This is how it goes. So it's going to be a real interesting test to see, you know, what can Volkanovski do in this, what I'm going to call last championship chapter of his career. And either way, you're going to get, I think, fantastic fights out of it, to the point you raise, whether it's Movsar, whether it's Jon Silva, whatever it is. There's some fun fights ready for him. Yeah,
and he's doing Street Fighter in Sydney right now, but he's going to want to fight them all. So we'll see what happens. I'm guessing February or December. There he is, Luke Thomas. Watch the live watch along. That's in the description below. Of course, his YouTube channel, Substack, More Than Combat. I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks so much for joining me on Submission Radio.
Thank you.